welcome back to the 12th Man Podcast. Welcome back to our episode. It's a big weekend of Premier League football. And of course, we're going to reflect back on the European football this week as the league phase of the Champions League and the Europa League came to a close. And it was pretty successful for the English and Scottish teams. All with a chance of being in the next round. I think actually six of those qualified automatically. And of course, Celtic and Man City have a playoff, which we will speak about as well. Some mammoth draws for those two. Owen's here. He's freshly trimmed up. He went to the barbers and everything. He's got himself prepared for a big show tonight. Owen, of course, as well. The transfer deadline is looming. We will speak a bit about that as well. It has been a quiet enough January. We did expect that. Most clubs now do tend to do their business in the summer, especially with the rules around PSR. But we will speak about that as well before previewing all of this weekend's games. So, Owen, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Not much to complain about in terms of anything at the moment. So, all good, lad. All good.
We'll start with the Champions League, of course. It was a very entertaining Wednesday night, I have to say. Trying to watch as many games as possible. I actually went down to the pub to watch it because I wanted to watch so many games at the one time. Called down for like a wee bit of the games because I was trying to watch one game and it was impossible. But it was well worth it because the drama was just incredible. Not so much last night. I only did watch the one game last night. Obviously Spurs were playing, but it didn't seem to have the same kind of excitement around it. And of course, the Champions League is the big competition. But Liverpool, Arsenal, and Aston Villa have all qualified for the last 16 of the competition. Tell you what, there's no surprises. Liverpool and Arsenal. I suppose Aston Villa, Owen, probably wouldn't have been. You wouldn't have fancied them at the very start. They make it to the top 8 out of all the teams.
No, I didn't. Anyway, I would have put Liverpool and Arsenal in there, and I would have put Man City in there too at the start of the season in one shape or another. So fair play to Villa for getting in there automatically. And obviously, in the last few minutes, they've just confirmed that Duran has left, so they've cash burning in their pocket. And from what I'm reading online, is they're looking to get Rashford on loan before the deadline.
Duran's a strange one, because obviously a talented player, but apparently there's problems with him behind the scene. Not the best character, but they've banked around 90 million euros apparently for this transfer. So a huge fee. You'd question Duran's motives, obviously going there for the financial rewards, but the only surprise really is Villa haven't maybe tried to delay it until the summer. Because if anything was to happen to Watkins now, I think they would struggle to replace him and the team at the moment.
Maybe you're right. Maybe it was one of them. He's a bad apple behind the scenes, and they just wanted shot.
Yeah, because Villa are going to have the Premier League and the Champions League to go for. They have a bit of ground to make up. They make sure they get back into the Champions League for next season. They are in the FA Cup and face Spurs. Even though Spurs are going through a bad spell, that's not a gimme. Because Spurs have done quite well in the cup competitions this season and saved most of their best performances for the cups. So I'm surprised that they're in 3 competitions. And they've opted. It's going to be very difficult to think they sign someone as good as Duran in the next sort of three days. And everybody knows now as well they've got a lot of cash.
Well, as I was saying there, Rashford on loans looking like they're just as I'm saying there, Callum. Rashford's their target, and I'm hearing they also want Joao Felix from Chelsea. They wanted him last summer, but he went to Chelsea, and that hasn't worked out. So I think they'll get someone over the line, but whether it's a big name or just a short-term loan remains to be seen.
Yeah, but will be interesting. I mean, Rashford, don't know if he'll fancy Villa, I think he wanted to move abroad.
I know, but he's going I know, but if you're going out of United, you're going to a team that's playing Champions League football, that's going to be challenging for Champions League football again in the rest of the season. For me, it's a move upwards at the minute.
Well, that's it. Liverpool finished winners of the league phase despite losing to PSV in a much-changed team. Arsenal found their way in the 3rd place. I think the common denominator with all these 3 teams was they all started pretty strong. Liverpool, Arsenal, and Villa were all up near the front at the very start. I think Villa won their first 3 games. Of course, Liverpool won their first 7. And Arsenal only lost 1 game and conceded 1 goal from open play in the 8 games. So they were pretty solid starts. Villa had a bit of a wobble. But of course, Celtic at the end was a bit of a gimme, even though Celtic put up a bit of a fight. It was always a nice game to finish with at home.
Yeah.
Two teams that had a lot of difficulty qualifying were Man City and Real Madrid, and of course they have been paired together. Madrid, of course, a little bit more comfortable in the end up, but there was a stage where they had that Atalanta game, and if they hadn't won that, they would have been in trouble, and they did. And they really kicked on after that. But Madrid will look at it and think, well, Man City's not who we. If you had a, I mean, if they were going to play a team in 21st, the start of the season, they probably wouldn't have thought it would have been Man City. And likewise with Man City, probably thought we could probably get out of jail and draw somebody half decent, but not Real Madrid. So it's a bumper clash. And of course, Celtic's reward for qualifying is Bayern Munich. Two great games, and I've seen the fixtures. They're on opposite nights. So I think Man City Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday the first week and Wednesday the following week, and it's a reverse for Celtic. They play Wednesday the first week and Bayern Munich on the second week on the Tuesday. So that'll be the two games that everyone's looking to watch, and definitely the two most exciting ties.
Big week for Man City that week because they play us in that week as well. And I actually seen today if we beat Spurs next week, we'll be playing Villa in the week that week as well. So there'll be two big games that week in terms of like title races and stuff. But in terms of Real Madrid and Man City have played each other now in the last 3-4 seasons, it seems like in the Champions League. So you're always on for an exciting match when
it seems to be getting earlier and earlier every year. It's the semi-finals, quarter-final. Now it's the last 32 round game. Crazy. And as you say, there is a if Liverpool do turn that tie around against Spurs, they will play Villa on the Wednesday night, and the same would apply to Spurs. They have also been penciled on. They play Fulham away should they maintain that advantage over Liverpool. Some Liverpool fans says it's not ideal that they would have to play that Villa game then, but there really is no other place in the calendar they can really fit this in, because there's also a chance there could be more postponements later on in the season, depending on how far Liverpool go in the FA Cup. So it really can only go in that one spot.
I have no complaints. Like where else are you going to play it? You won't fit it in, and you would assume Liverpool are going to go deep in the Champions League, depending on the draw, of course, and you would assume we're going to go again, depending on the draw, deep into the cup. So you have to play your games when they're played, and obviously this week we have Bournemouth, Everton, and Spurs in the next week. So it's or Bournemouth, Spurs, Everton. Sorry, it's not going to be an easy week.
The draw is kind of looking okay for Liverpool in the Champions League, but there is a possibility of playing PSG in the next round. And look, Liverpool would be favourites, but you'd be hoping they draw the other team in that part of the draw, because we've seen them against Man City and we've seen them the other night against Stuttgart. I know Liverpool's a different level to Stuttgart, but they have a lot of pace, a lot of power, and they definitely seem to be a lot more togetherness than there was under previous regimes when they had the big hitters. It does seem like more of a team sort of united now, and they've got some great young players there that'll cause teams problems.
I don't think they'll go on and win the Champions League. I don't think they're ready for that. But as you say, there's definitely more of a togetherness in the squad since they got rid of the Messis, the Mbappes, the Neymars, and all that. So if we get PSG, it'll be a glamour tie, and it'll be one to look forward to. But if I had my choice, I'd be playing someone like Brest or Monaco or something like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of talk about, this happens every year when a team's in a position like Liverpool, don't quadruples, trebles. I think this shows you how difficult it is, because, Callum's just saying here, wouldn't fear PSG. We've made a lot of European teams look average. That's a fair point, but it shows you how difficult it is that, you're almost like, I think Callum mentioned this earlier, punished for your own success. But I think Ange made this statement. Well, you want to be punished because it means you're doing well. You're in these competitions, but you think about it. Liverpool would have to play in the 2 games now midweek against Everton and possibly Villa. They could have a League Cup final to come up, FA Cup games coming up, possibly a PSG double header just to get into the quarterfinal of the Champions League. So there's plus you've all your Premier League games in there. So it shows you how difficult it is that you have to be an outstanding team to go on and win maybe 3 out of 4, or no one's ever done it, the 4 out of 4.
I'm not thinking that. I'm not thinking that far ahead. I'm just taking it a game at a time and just see what happens. If we obviously the league, I think I'm not saying the league's done, but I'm saying we're in a good position there. But I'm not thinking we're going to go and win all 4 trophies. I just don't think that's realistic.
But I think that shows you why more teams often not collapse than they do go on to win trebles, because it's so difficult. All of a sudden you could be in 4 competitions, lose a final, go to the FA Cup in the same week, and then you're under pressure in the Champions League to go through in the next round, and all of a sudden league form can go. And that's why we've seen teams like Arsenal, Liverpool in recent years. Suddenly they run 3 or 4 competitions 1 week, and within 2 weeks they're down to 1, because it's so difficult to maintain that level. 3 times a week, and you're having these squeeze games in. And, if you're in finals and semi-finals and quarterfinals, you're going to be playing against good teams. So it's not as if you can rest and rotate. Of course, Liverpool have Plymouth in the FA Cup, but you would imagine from the next round on, they're more likely to be playing Premier League teams.
So as you say, you're not going to rest big hitters in like Champions League games. I know we did the other night, but that was because it was sewn up and it was done. But as Callum says there, Jota's back today, Nunez is back in training, Gomez is back in training, so we seem to be getting boys back. And as I said, I'm not sitting here saying we're going to win 4 trophies. I would like to think we'll win at least one. But my aim every season is they won the league and whatever European competition we're in. So that's my aim.
Yeah, let's look at the other European competition that took place last night. Of course, United, Spurs, and Rangers all qualified. Wasn't without hard work. I mean, they were all had to get results last night to ensure they would qualify. It wasn't like Liverpool where they were cruised through from an early stage. Yeah. Lazio were the kind of runaway leaders in the Europa League, and of course they did what Liverpool did and rested a whole bunch of players for their last game and lost. Up until that, they had won 6 and drew 1 of their first 7. Rangers, to be fair, I mean, they've had a tough as run as anyone. They've played some of the hardest teams, and to qualify in the top 8 was an outstanding achievement. And Spurs were down to the bare bones again last night, but a few of the kids come on and showed what maybe they were missing in recent weeks, and that freshness and that fearlessness. So it'll be interesting to see how Ange deals with that. Of course, it's only 1 game against poor opposition. You shouldn't get too high, but it was a really impressive final 20 minutes of that game. We sort of unknown players coming on and kind of changing it. So I think United and Spurs would have been definitely expected to finish in the top 8. Rangers were probably a team where I had an outside chance. Definitely would have fancied them for a playoff. But all 3 are on me a good chance now. And of course, the way it's fell, United and Spurs can now only meet in the final one. So if they're going to meet, it'll be in the final in Bilbao. So I think that adds an extra incentive for both teams.
Because now, as you say, they can't play each other, and no disrespect, I know there's Lazio on there, Roma's on there, aren't they? But Roma aren't pulling up any trees. Rangers,
Roma's in a playoff.
They're in a playoff. I don't know much of the other teams, to be honest. I haven't paid much attention to the Europa League this season, to be honest, because Liverpool aren't in it. So
I'll be honest with you. United and Spurs have finished quite high up, 3rd and 4th, but the way it's gone, there's a chance they could play Galatasaray and Real Sociedad. One to get one and one to get the R in the next round. Should they both win their playoffs, and they'll be heavily favoured. Galatasaray away won't be easy, and Spurs were beat there this year 3-2. Of course, they would have a home leg, but Galatasaray will be a nightmare trip. And we know Real Sociedad are a good footballing team, so I looked at some of the other possibilities that teams that finish lower down could have possibly easier draws on paper. So I mean, that's not a gimme that both those teams come through them ties in the next round.
No, like as I found out last season, I was already thinking, oh, we got Atlanta in the next round. I was thinking, we're going to go on. So it's never as easy as you think of it to be in your head. So Spurs and United will have to, and let's be honest, like Spurs and United, they're not going to do anything in the league. So they won't do it, but they do have the luxury of resting players in the league when they have a European game, because they're not going to pull up any trees in the league this season.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing. I was on Chris's podcast last night, and I was saying, well, Spurs get a few more wins and they can start to relax about any relegation fears. It really comes down to the cups then, and you start resting players in the league, because what's the difference between finishing 14th and finishing 10th? If you're not going to risk your FA Cup run, should they beat Villa, a possible final if they come through Liverpool, which will be difficult, and of course the Europa League, which a lot of Spurs fans still feel is the most winnable, due to the fact you're not going to meet Liverpool, you're not going to meet a Man City, you're not going to meet an Arsenal in there. It could be that you have to beat a bunch of European teams that are not at the top of their leagues and play a fallen giant in Man United in the final, should you meet them there, which Spurs have had a pretty good record against United over the last few years. So, I mean, it's definitely an opportunity for Spurs and Man United to go far in this competition.
And to be fair, like if he's won it, then you're back in the Champions League. So that's another. I think that's still a thing. I
Yeah,
don't know.
because that.
Because I knew they changed so much. I didn't know if they changed that. But aye, you should be back in the Champions League if you ever wins that. So that's another big incentive as well. Because as I say, United and Spurs are looking very, very increasingly likely not to have European football next season if they don't win any of the cup competitions.
Yeah. How do you think it's looking now? I think this is the last week. I would ask you after we get the places confirmed. I know there's still playoffs, and you don't know exactly who you're going to play next, but you have a 50% chance of playing a certain team. Who do you think are the favourites in both competitions?
They won the whole thing, or these matches?
Yeah, they won. No, they won the whole thing.
Well, you have to put Real Madrid in there. I know they're playing Man City,
Even
but
though they've got Man City to come through next, I mean that's not a gimme.
I know it's not. But I'm just like, it's Real Madrid. They always find a way to win the competition. But I'll take them out of it then, since they have a playoff for all the teams that are qualified. I'm gonna back my boys in. I'll say Liverpool. We have to be at the minute.
Yeah, Liverpool Barcelona final I think would be great, wouldn't it? Because you know how Barca play. It's all attack on football.
We'll probably end up with
Barca,
six.
I think Liverpool have more chance of making it because if they can mix their game up, I think Barca can only really play that sort of basketball football, and I think against better teams he can be found out.
If it's a Liverpool Barca final, it'll end up like 7-8 or something.
Although Barcelona fans would tell you, well, we played Real Madrid this year and battered them, so they'll argue it can work against anyone. But I just think an Arsenal or Liverpool could be should, and it could be difficult. But
yeah,
you'd expect Barcelona to go far still because they've got the same kind of pathway as Liverpool. So
they have a good chance to, and they do play, as you say, front foot attacking football, and it is good. It's a bit mad to watch at times, but it's fun to watch.
I think Barcelona are in a situation where they're not going to win the league either. Madrid have got quite a gap on them now, so that'll be their main focus. So maybe that'll help them in the latter part of the season.
Again, you would have to just say, well, you'd have to say Spurs and United are the favourites to get to the final, but you'd have to throw like a Lazio in there too as well.
There'll be no easy games for sure, and of course, Bilbao will be eyeing up a possible home final. I think Spurs and United would meet Bilbao in the semi-final. If they were to both get there, I think it would be Spurs, Bilbao, United, Bilbao. So
where's the Champions League final this year? I think it's in Munich, isn't it?
It's in Munich, yeah. And of course, we forgot to mention that game, really. Celtic fans will be delighted with a draw like Bayern Munich because I think they know they're not going to go much further anyway. And they get a big tie like at Celtic Park, will be a big night for them.
It's all about, for Celtic fans, they know they're not going to get to the latter stages of a Champions League, so getting to play it's better than going to Kilmarnock away, isn't it? Or having St Mirren at home. So when you're meeting, no disrespect to them, but when you're meeting Bayern Munich, it's a whole different ballgame.
I actually think they'll be happy if it's Bayern Munich away and not Madrid away too, because I think in Germany you can relax a bit more music, or you can drink in the stadium and have a beer, and Spain's totally different. So I think they'll be pretty happy they've drawn Bayern Munich, and of course Real Madrid are probably seen as a stronger team. So who knows? Maybe Celtic can make a game of it in the first leg. Go to Germany, we saw him, and maybe stifle him. But I think it's a big ask. Owen, let's look ahead to the Premier League because it is a big weekend, and the title race. Of course, Liverpool and Arsenal have very difficult tests. Liverpool arguably playing the most unformed team in the country, in Bournemouth, and Arsenal obviously face the 4 times champions in a row, Man City, who have had a bit of form as well. So, Owen, I mean, it's away as well. I mean, is this as hard as a game you could have had this weekend on current form, a team that's scoring goals, also beating unformed teams like Newcastle and Forest, who were on great runs before they come under it. And at the moment, Bournemouth just seem to be sweeping them all aside. So there's always a time they had teams and the time not they had teams, or Liverpool hitting Bournemouth at the wrong time.
You would have to say at the minute they are, and Bournemouth away is always a tricky game. It's only won their last season 4-0, but it's always one of them games. It's like, obviously it's different because they don't play like it, but when you have like Burnley away in a season, you're just like, Bournemouth away is like that, but I know they play better football, but it's always one of them tricky games, and
Well,
they
it's a
haven't
tight ground,
yeah,
tight pitch, tight atmosphere is always good. So I know what you mean.
they haven't lost in what 11 games now, and as you say, they're scoring goals for fun. They're not conceding many. So Liverpool, if we want to come away with anything tomorrow, we're going to have to be at our maximum best that we can because it will be a difficult game for Liverpool for sure. But I'm pretty sure it won't make it as difficult as for Bournemouth as they will for us. So it's whether who comes out on top is the main thing. But I'm quietly confident we'll get a result.
I think one of the things that's impressed me most about Bournemouth, they are a good footballing team. We've seen that under Andoni Areola, is the physicality of them. They went to Newcastle. I think Newcastle's midfield is as physical as anyone's, and they bullied them. The three players up front, Kluivert's an unbelievable form at the minute, but Semenyo and Utara are big, physical, speedy lads who can compete with anyone. So they're quite, and the two centre backs, like, they head the ball and they're not afraid to mix it up. So I think they're a difficult team to prepare for because they can play different ways. They can sit off and counter attack. They can high press, win it back, turn it over. It's difficult, and this will really test Slot, I think, because Slot's been quite good at adapting. But it's very difficult to plan. They know how Bournemouth will go about it tomorrow because I think
Yeah,
they surprised Newcastle. I think they surprised Forest, and they might have some sort of plan up their sleeve to try and surprise Liverpool tomorrow.
Areola is probably if he. I know Nuno and Slot have been getting credit, but I think he's been for me manager of the season so far. Just because of nobody expected Bournemouth, I think are they sixth or seventh at the minute. I know they're one of them.
They're level with Chelsea in points. I think they're just behind them in goal difference.
So he's done, and I think he's going to go do a bigger job eventually, whether that is a Spurs or someone. But he will have a plan for Liverpool tomorrow. But I'm sure Slot will uh, have something up his sleeve to counteract it because he's shown in games this season, even the Fulham game when we went down to 10 men. I think he changed things about 3 or 4 times in that game. So he is adaptable, which I do like about him because as much as I love Klopp, it was in a bit like Ange. He's very, very, nope, we're playing this way and we're sticking to it. So I like the way Slot can adapt to certain situations within games.
Yeah, and of course, by the time the games kick off tomorrow, we'll be into February. And of course, we've said this month after month when we're on here talking about Liverpool. Maybe this time next month, there'll be news. And of course, we're into February tomorrow, and there's still no talk of contracts being signed. And I have to say, worryingly for Liverpool fans, it's gone very quiet. I'm starting to think I've sort of had this opinion from the very start when I says these, I don't like when players get into that final year and there's been so much time to get contracts signed, and for whatever reason, it can't it isn't being done. And we're now getting to the final 4 months of the season, and Liverpool are going to have some massive games coming up. The January transfer window is about to close, and Liverpool are no further forward reportedly than getting these deals over the line. So, is that a concern going into such a very important part of the season that there's 3 players at the club? You couldn't question their loyalty or their commitment, but they are human. And there is a chance they could be distracted. We've seen with Klopp last year, the announcement at the start didn't really affect them, but eventually, you kind of felt towards the end that it did. And I hope for Liverpool's sake it doesn't happen again this year.
No, I don't think it will. I don't think he. I don't. They're two. They're two. Look at Salah. Look at Van Dijk. Trent's a different story. I think he has heads gone already, in my opinion, all the way up.
You could argue, but in the last few weeks, Salah hasn't been as prolific as he was prior to Christmas, prior to the New Year, really, since that sort of turn of the year.
He could have, but
the Spurs game, he didn't really do much in the cup. United at home, he wasn't great, and we scored a penalty. Brentford, he was quiet enough.
Scored last week,
of course, but from the form he was in,
I just think that's just tiredness as well. He's played every single game.
There's no doubt the man's going to keep scoring goals. But,
I'm sticking to what I said. I think Salah and Van Dijk will get done eventually, and then I think Trent's. I think he's away, but that's my stance on it. But it is worrying.
But when is the right time to discuss this? Because Liverpool's going to have a game every 3 days now coming up. When are these players going to be able to sit down and talk about it, or speak to their agents. I know most of the agents are doing most of the negotiating and whatever. But you wonder at this stage what is left to negotiate. Because I don't think it's about money. I don't think it's about the trajectory Liverpool's on, because it's been pretty solid for the last number of years.
Yeah.
It has to be over contract length, and it's not like negotiating wages where it can be 20 grand out and they settle 10 grand in between. It's either 2 years or 3 years. That's a big difference in gap. You can't turn into 2.5 years because a player's not going to be out of contract in January. So there really is only so much negotiating they can do now.
So it's up to the club. Like I've said all along, I don't understand how we let it get to this point. Like I know last summer we were sort of a bed and parade for Hughes and Michael Edwards, but they didn't do nothing in the summer. So why didn't I know Van Dijk and Trent were the heroes, so that's understandable.
Yeah,
but
if you look at it, Owen, right, it's going to be Bournemouth on Saturday, then it's going to be Spurs on Thursday, and then it's going to be Plymouth on Sunday again. Then it's going to be possibly it's going to be Everton, and then it's going to be Plymouth. Then it's Everton, and then it's who they have after Everton again.
I think it's Wolves.
Wolves at home.
And Newcastle.
Then Newcastle, and there's an RFA Cup game possibly coming up there. If they have to play that Villa game because they're in the final, then they have a final coming up, then they've got Champions League coming back in Martin. So you're wondering and thinking, well, these players are going to be pretty busy to be talking about. So I kind of felt that the period for that's kind of come and gone now. I kind of feel that Salah, Van Dijk, and Trent will probably say, well, we've laid out our terms. It's either up to you. They come back to us now with what we want, or we move.
Well, I think, as I said, I think Trent's gone already. I don't think there's any chance I'm signing. But I think I'm still 90% sure Van Dijk and Salah will be Liverpool players next season.
Final question: when do you think roughly we'll find out about this? Because I mean, you'd have to think. I mean, I can't see a situation in April where we're still chatting about this, because there's only going to be 5 or 6 games left in the season.
I'm going to say, but sometime in the March international break.
You think that'll be the time?
It has to be. If it goes past that, then I'll start to think, right, what are we doing?
Yeah. I suppose the positive thing is, when Klopp left, there was a sort of worry that, how do you replace him? Seems like at the moment that there's not really been an issue. Has Slot kind of proved? Gerrard's left before, Michael Owen's left before, Suarez has left before, Torres has left before. The players are replaceable no matter how important you feel they are at the time. Everyone can manage.
It is, but it's look at it. Salah, no one's going to put up the numbers Salah's for us again. I highly doubt that.
About Torres.
Suppose but Salah's surpassed Torres numbers. You're right, but I just think we have to get Salah and Van Dijk done. And as for Slot, I know there hasn't been any bumps in the road, but as you say, when Klopp left this time last year, it was announced he was leaving. I think everyone associated with Liverpool, fans, players, whoever, went into sort of panic mode. But it seems to be at the minute, especially with no real signings. I know Case is starting to get up to speed up, but no real marquee signings so far. So far, it's I can't complain about how
Liverpool, they have a quiet one, though.
This one, though, but I say it every year, so I'm like a broken record. But the summer we have to surely bring in 2, 3, 4, 5.
And it looks like they've lost out in Zubimendi as well. It looks like he's possibly going to Arsenal, so that'll be a big loss as well.
I think with Gravenberch being there, we sort of how good he's been, but I still think we need a backup. There's 3 positions I want in the summer. I'm going to, regardless of these leave or not. So in my head, Salah and Van Dijk are still here. So I'm going to say another centre back, a left back, and a striker. We need a striker.
It'll be interesting summer for Liverpool, especially if depending on these contract situations. I mean, if they have to replace 3 of those 3 plus add, that's going to be a lot to do in one window. A lot to do. And you think about it as well, you're losing 3 players for nothing. So there's no real income there. So it'll be a testing time for Slot.
Well,
But Owen,
I suppose we Trent's one. We have Bradley in there.
yeah, but they'll need someone else. You can't
Uh,
just have one right back.
yeah.
But Owen, let's move on and talk about your rivals for the Premier League. Arsenal have Man City at home at the weekend. This has kind of been a bit of a grudge match over the last couple of seasons, and there's been controversy in some of these games. Obviously, the Pep Arteta connection as well adds more fire to it. And of
Michael
course,
Oliver
Arsenal,
got taken off the pitch, didn't they?
and of course, Arsenal fans were very disappointed by the decision in the reverse game. They sent Trossard off. So
For
there
me,
is going to be fire in this game, but I mean Arsenal are in that territory now. In the February, I think it was this weekend last year they beat Liverpool 3-1.
was
They go on and close the gap, and they went on a massive run. Then obviously overtook Liverpool and pushed Man City all the way to the wire, where Man City run out by 2 points. So maybe this will be the message from Arteta this weekend. We can really start a great run this weekend and kick on. But it kind of feels that they're running out of opportunities on, and it kind of has to start making. It's been kind of this 6 point gap since Christmas, and they've had opportunities to close, and they haven't, or they've closed it and then lost it in the next game. So it's kind of been a bit of a patchy run for Arsenal, and it's allowed Liverpool to maybe not be as consistent as they were in the first half of the season. They're only really having to do enough to stay ahead of Arsenal at the moment. And the worry for Arsenal is Liverpool's game in hand is approaching, so they could go 9 clear. So huge game for Arsenal on Sunday, regardless of what happens at Bournemouth on Saturday.
Arsenal have to be winning this game. I think. Obviously, you don't know what's going to happen in the last 4 or 5 months of the season, but if Arsenal don't win this game on Sunday, then Liverpool must be thinking, right, we have to really go on. No matter what happens in the Bournemouth game, if Arsenal don't win, we have to be thinking, right, this is our league now. They really lose. So for me, it is must-win territory for Arsenal, and they're coming up against Man City of not of old, but Man City of more recent Man City. They're not as easy to play against the teams, and I think Marmoush is going to be a very big problem on Sunday because from what I watched last week, obviously against a poor team in Chelsea, that Arsenal, but I think he'll cause them problems.
Yeah, definitely. Arsenal would have looked at that Chelsea game last week and says, well, let's see what City are made of. And of course, Arsenal will rate themselves a lot higher than Chelsea. But as you say, it was more of a Man City performance. They dominated that game really after the opening spell. And as you say, Marmoush gave them a lot more firepower, a lot more running on behind. I think allowed Haaland to have a bit more room as well, because I think he's been kind of isolated at times this season. Kovacic's back in the midfield as a big bonus. Of course, scored the other night. They've missed him at times this season. I think he's as close to Rodri as they've got that can play that role. When they had to play Rico Lewis on there to start, they were getting battered by most teams. So it's a more of a rejuvenated Man City, not the Man City of old, but Arsenal will definitely be thinking this is going to be a very difficult game. And of course, Owen, kind of like the Bournemouth question, it's probably not the right time to be hitting Man City. Arsenal would have looked at this maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago and thought, happy days. It's not the Man City team we're used to playing, but it looks a lot more difficult than it was now a few weeks ago.
That's what I was saying there. Like it's not the Man City that went and lost to Bournemouth or blew a 3-0 lead at Feyenoord or lost. Also, they lost to Everton. They drew with and they lost to
4-0 to Spurs. You just can't see that happening.
No, not this time. I think it'll be a lot more tough for Arsenal than it would have been if they had met 3-4 weeks ago or just before Christmas even. So I think for both teams, for Man City, I think it's too far gone for them to get back on it, but just to build a bit of momentum because, as you say, they could go. I know they have Real Madrid in the next round of the Champions League, but they could go all out for the Champions League.
Well, if they beat Real Madrid, they'll feel like they can beat anyone in that Champions League.
Yep. So I think obviously Pep won't throw away the league because he'll still want to consolidate a Champions League position because it's still not guaranteed that they'll get it. But I think if they go and beat Arsenal, then they'll really think, right, we can go on a proper run.
Well, and one of the big talking points of the week before the European games was the red card for Miles Lewis-Skelly in the Wolves versus Arsenal game. Arsenal fans were...
See, when you wrote MLS, I was like, who the hell? And then I remembered, I was like, all right.
Arsenal fans were outraged with this sending off. Of course, I think most people would say that it was harsh and it probably should have been overturned by the VAR. It wasn't, and then it was later overturned in the appeal process. So he is available for Arsenal this week. I mean, what was your thoughts on it first, the rec yard itself, and then the reaction from the Arsenal fan base? This is probably a separate question.
Well, the red card itself for me, as most people would say, it was never a red card. Yes, you could argue it was slightly high, but for me, it wasn't a red
Well, that's
card.
right. Sorry to jump in. I've seen a lot of pundits say that yes, they thought it was a yellow card, but it wasn't like the worst decision they had ever seen. And if you actually watch it, one time, like Michael Oliver did, he might have seen it that I'm scraping down the back of the Achilles and serious foul play. He probably
Yeah.
needed help from the VAR afterwards, which he didn't get. But Danny Murphy has seen, Stephen Warnock was saying on Ref Watch. I don't think it's the worst red card we've ever seen. We've seen worse than that, and it did seem to spark this massive outcry from Arsenal fans that they were cheated out of something again.
They're not all Arsenal fans, but the majority of Arsenal fans I listen to, they're always crying about something. They were saying Liverpool were copying their corner technique a few weeks ago. They were saying that Michael Oliver hits them. They were saying that. Do you know what it is? And I'm not saying the referees have a agenda against any team, or just like I just think it's, as I said last time I was on, they're wasting time in like 20 minutes in games. Arteta's
That's what I was going to say to you, right? It is starting to look like, and this isn't a problem. Arsenal fans have with one referee. They have a problem with Michael Oliver. They have a problem with Gerard Gilly. They have a problem with Anthony Taylor, and they have a problem with another referee, Chris Kavanagh. So there's 4 referees. So if you've got that many issues with 4 referees, you're going to struggle to find one that you like, especially in the big games, because most of these big referees are going to do the bigger games. And it is starting to look like these referees, they don't like Arsenal. And like I'm trying to think of it. Michael Oliver's from Newcastle. What would he have against Arsenal? Chris Kavanagh, thanks from the Northwest. What would he have against Arsenal? There's very little referees from London. They suggest they support our London clubs. So
Gerard Gillis from Australia.
I'm struggling to see why these referees would have anything against Arsenal, other than what we're seeing, and it seems to be pretty recent within the last couple of years. The constant time wasting. They've had 8 bookings for time wasting, kicking the ball away and delaying the restart. I think there was a Brighton game. Namweri got booked for taking a minute and 15 seconds. He took a corner in the first half when the score was 0-0. So it's the constant delay in the game where I can understand they're trying to perfect the corner or perfect the free kick. I think it was Lee Gunner says it's 93rd minute against Brighton. It's 1-1, and it's taken us over 2.5 minutes to take a free kick from the edge of the box and basically blown any of the last, it had to go under the net from the free kick or it was time up. Instead of getting the ball moving early and trying to make use of the last 2 minutes to the best of her ability. So whilst he's a very controversial Arsenal fan, he does make a point that, they're taking forever to get the game rolling at times. And referees have obviously just started to dislike him because obviously they want to have the game played in the spirit of the game.
And it's not even that. I think Arteta doesn't help himself either. He has antics on the touchline. He was running up and down screaming. And don't get me wrong, he's not down the manager.
He's over the white line at times, isn't
he? You seen that with Amram last week. He was nearly over the line. But
I'll ask you because Liverpool fans kind of had a bit of an issue with referees priority slot coming on, and I think this is the best sort of example you could use. Liverpool fans haven't had too many issues with referees this year because I think Slot's a cool, calm, collected character. They asked him about 12:30 fixtures the first time they played at 12:30. He says, "I'll play at 10:30 if you want." Doesn't care. Doesn't bother me. Whereas Klopp was always giving out about an early kickoff, giving out if Paul Tierney or David Cook was referee in the game. And then you see the David Cook stuff, whilst it's not acceptable what he was doing during his refereeing career, it's no surprise to me that he disliked Jurgen Klopp because Jurgen Klopp hounded him every time they played him. Whether he had a good game or not, he had something to say about David Cook or Paul Tierney. And it's no surprise to me that them referees disliked him because, what he put them through. And it's a bit like this when Arteta came out last year at the Newcastle game. He says the referees are the worst in Europe. Best league, worst officials. Hammered him, says it's not acceptable. Ever since then, of course, not too many friends in the refereeing committee. So you do wonder that, have these managers and teams brought it on themselves, because from what I can see, Slot hasn't had too many things to say about the referee. And even when he had that thing go against him, the Bergville thing in the cup, he kind of just brushed it off and says, "Look, I should have been on the pitch, but we deal with it and we move on."
It's and you know me, I'm a big critic of referees, but some of the stuff I see, we might go over this week was absolutely disgusting. Like his family was getting death threats, he was getting death threats. It's like what like as much as I bashed them in the heat of the moment, I hear saying, "Oh, this referee's a disgrace," but they're humans as well. We're all going to make mistakes in our lives. Do I think the referees need to be better in the Premier League? 100%, but that's that's on the people above them. They make sure they're better, and I do think the VAR doesn't help them at times. So, and all you see too is you'll notice like I haven't bashed referees as much this season, not just for Liverpool, but in general. But I think you look on Twitter, you have Mark Goldbridge never shutting up about them. It's just they're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So it is
Everybody
a
wants an excuse, don't they? Everybody wants an excuse. They don't really look within. I think Slot was perfect after that cup game against Spurs. He says, "Look, the decision went against us. Over the 90 minutes, we weren't good enough. We were poor." So, yes, refereeing decisions can impact the game, but when you don't play at your best, like in most of these games, when a manager comes out and hammers a referee, it's usually because the team doesn't play well, but they try and cover that up by a poor referee decision.
It's like Ange. You see Ange now slightly going after referees, where last season he was going, just let them.
Well, no, again, I don't think he's personally attacked any referee. I think he has issues with the rules. VAR, he doesn't like that. I think he just says he would prefer it without VAR. I think that's what he says. Not so much that they attack the referee, whereas I think Arteta and Klopp actually have personally attacked certain referees.
Yeah, I just think in the heat of a moment, managers will say things, refs will say things, and as you say, you see with the David Cook thing, that was mental, and you seen with his interview this week how it seemed to affect him mentally, but like I think with Arteta, he in similar ways they call Arteta does go overboard at times, and it is going to leave a reputation with certain referees.
Yeah. Final question on this game. So you say you think Man City's out of the title race. So do I as well. I think it's only between Liverpool and Arsenal. And Arsenal at the minute still have an uphill battle. They make a race of it. But with no cup, with no league, I think they'll be okay for the Champions League. And places, especially what looks like there's going to be 5 places due to the English team's great results in the league phase. They still have the FA Cup and they still have the Champions League. Obviously, Real Madrid stand in their way, but I mean, if they beat Real Madrid, they'll be viewed as one of the favourites.
100%. Like if you beat Real Madrid at any stage in the Champions League, well, not any stage, but when it goes into the knockout stage, if you put Real Madrid out, teams will be looking at you going way fear. So, if Man City do get past, who do they have in the FA Cup? Leighton Orient or something. So that's a gimme. So they're done there. But if they get past Real Madrid, then no reason why they can't go on. They won the Champions League for the second.
If Man City were to go on win the Champions League, do you think the fans would view that as a successful season, even if they finish 3rd or 4th or 5th?
I mean, you have to like winning the Champions League is every manager's dream, really, isn't it? So I think if they do go on and win the Champions League, which I hope they don't, but if they do go on and win the Champions League, then it will be not successful to their usual high standards, but for this season, it would be very, very successful.
Yeah, they've only won it once, haven't they? So I'm sure they would absolutely love to win it again. Owen, let's look at the games this weekend. Of course, the games start on Saturday at 12:30. Nottingham Forest taking on Brighton in the early kickoff. Forest have been absolutely flying this season, but of course were brought back down to earth by Bournemouth's 5-0 victory last weekend. Brighton beat Man United well, and then of course didn't follow it up, losing at home to Everton. And Brighton has been kind of like that this season, where they have a big result. I mean, they've beaten Spurs, they've beaten Man United twice. I think they've beaten Man City as well, and they seem to struggle then again. Yeah, teams are expected to beat. So hard to know how this game will go. But I think Forest at home will be desperate to respond. And I would actually worry for Forest if Brighton went there and won, because then you would start to think 2 defeats in a row. How will that affect confidence? So it's a big game for Forest if they have any aspirations of finishing in the Champions League places.
I'm actually going to watch this game because they're two teams that that are good to watch. At certain times, I know Forest are a bit more defensive, but in terms of a prediction, I will go 2-1 in Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, I'm going to go the same, 2-1 Forest. Bournemouth take on Liverpool at 3 o'clock. Of course, Irish customers in the south will be able to watch this game on Premier Sports at 3 o'clock. That is the 3 o'clock game this weekend, and it's going to be an absolute cracker.
I'll be traveling to America to watch mine somehow.
What's that?
I'll be traveling to America to watch mine, allegedly.
Oh, American VPN. We spoke about this game earlier. One, you says that you're still fairly confident of a result despite Bournemouth's great form. How do you see it going then?
You know what? All week I was saying 1-1, but you know what? I've changed. I'm going to go 2-2.
2-2. I'm torn as well, you know. I think it'll be really good. I think there'll be goals on it too. I've kind of been on the Bournemouth thing this week, but when I thought about it today, I was thinking, well, how many more times can they have teams for 4, have teams for 5? Will they come back a peg this weekend? And they're playing a better team as well. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 as well. 2-2 draw. And I think, to be honest, that would be a decent point for Liverpool because Arsenal still
if it works out how I'm not going to give any spoilers, but if it works out how I think it's going to work out, so say this ends 2-2 and then the Man City result goes how I think it's going to go, then not a bad weekend.
Everton take on Leicester, two teams that are fighting to stay in the league. Everton have had some form. They beat Spurs and they beat Brighton last weekend. Leicester, of course, ended that horrific run at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium with a 1. That's been that kind of season for Spurs when teams need victories. They tend to find them against Spurs. How do you see this going? Because Everton have obviously been flying under David Moyes, and Ndiaye has been excellent in recent weeks. And if I'm honest, I think Everton have a lot better quality than Leicester. So I think despite Leicester's won last week, they're up against it.
Well, Calvert-Lewin's out. He has a hamstring injury. Mangala's out for the rest of the season. He done his ACL, so that's 2 players out. But I agree with you. I don't think this is going to be a particularly great game to watch. I think it's going to be a tight affair, but I think Everton will just about edge it. I'm going to go 1-0 Everton.
I don't want to be copying you all the time, but I think that's a good shout too. So I'm going to go 2-1 Everton. I don't want to be 3 in a row here. Ipswich take on Southampton, and you feel that if Ipswich have any hope of staying up, they've got to win this game. Because I know Spurs fans are starting this. Could we get relegated or could we be dragged under it? And when you look at it objectively, if Ipswich can't win this game, they're probably as good as relegated. And then you've only got really one team to worry about. And these teams have to win maybe 3 games to get level with Spurs.
Do you reckon Southampton will break Derby's record?
Well, it's 5 points to get up, man. It's not easy at the moment because it's hard to see where their next one's coming from. Only won game all season, so they might be far away from it. They might get there, they might fall under, they might just get there, but I don't think they'll get many more points than 11 or 12.
No, near do I. I think they might break it, you know. I generally do. They're that bad. Like I generally don't know. But for this game, as you say, if Ipswich don't win this, they may as well just pack up and go back to the Championship. I'm going to go 2-0 Ipswich.
I'm going to go 3-2 Ipswich. Newcastle pick on Fulham in the final 3 o'clock game that we're looking at here. Newcastle, of course, have been flying, only rated that Bournemouth skid mark on a great run. And of course, they've got Arsenal coming up in the League Cup this week, so it'll be interesting to see if they rotate a couple. But they are in a healthy position, 2-0 up, and obviously playing Arsenal at home as well. Yep. But they'll have aspirations of Champions League football as well, which the League Cup doesn't give you. So their commitments are kind of spread out at the moment.
They've won a trophy in 50 years.
Well, that's it. And I think the fans have really experienced Champions League, so they would take your arm off for a trophy over Champions League. But Fulham, very funny team. I think everybody fancied them to beat United last week, and they didn't. And funny enough, this week, people are probably fancying Newcastle, and Fulham might be able to throw a spanner in the works. I think Fulham are a good team on their day, but they're just too inconsistent. And I think when the pressure's on them, especially at home, they struggle. They match it. This might be a type of game where it suits them. Away from home, people expect Newcastle they won. So any result here wouldn't shock me at all, to be honest. But Newcastle.
This is probably for me, it's a Newcastle one all over because I just think I know they lost to Bournemouth, but as we spoke about, Bournemouth are in mental form at the minute. I'm going to go 3-1 Newcastle.
Isak's in great form, isn't he? I'm going to go 2-1 Newcastle. 5:30 TV game is a Black County derby between Wolves and Aston Villa. Of course, with so many of these teams in the Championship, the likes of West Brom and the likes of Birmingham, who are in League One. These teams are missing their rivals. West Brom, of course, as well in the Championship, who Wolves are closely. So this is kind of their big rivalry in the Premier League at the moment, due to so many of them in lower leagues. And this game has produced some classics in the last few seasons between these sides. So, this fixture has been a magnet for goals in recent seasons. So, we'll be hoping that trend continues on Sunday or Saturday, sorry.
I think it'll be a good game. I'm gonna go 3-2 Aston Villa.
You know what? Wolves have had a bit of a stumble since we spoke about that new manager that you were raving about coming on. He seems to have starting to find the same problems Gary Neal had now. But I think this might be a good game for them because I think Villa, they looked tired against West Ham and they definitely looked a bit tired against Celtic as well at times. Yeah. I just wonder if the squad's starting to be stretched for all the games, and I think Wolves might have an opportunity here to get a result. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
And Duran leaving as well sort of minimises their options, but they do have Deon Mallon who can play striker as well, so maybe he'll get more minutes.
Moving on to Sunday, the 2:00 live game is Brentford and Spurs at the Brentford. I think it's the K. Is it what's the GTEC Stadium?
GTEC Community Stadium.
Spurs have yet to win at Brentford since they've come up. All three games have ended in draws: 0-0, 2-2, and 2-2. And I think Spurs would take another draw at the moment, to be honest, just to stop the rot in the league. But it won't be easy because Brentford have been strong. But I have to say, their form at home in recent weeks has had a major bump. So, look, Brentford are a decent team, but there's no reason Spurs can't go here as well and get a result. So, I think there'll be an interesting watch. I think it'll be tight either way because Brentford don't really get involved in hammering teams or getting hammered themselves. So, it should be a good game.
Aye, and again, similar to the Newcastle Fulham game, it wouldn't shock you if any of the three results happen. So I'm gonna sit in the fence. I'm gonna go a 2-2 draw.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for as well. Brentford 2, Spurs 2. Man United tackling Crystal Palace, and United cannot buy a win at Old Trafford. It seem to do okay away from home, but at home at the moment, it just seems to be very tough to beat teams. Although Palace probably don't possess a quality of teams that's visited there in recent weeks. So this might be the opportunity for Ruben Amorim to kickstart a good home run and beat Palace, who are struggling, to be honest, with injuries. I think the manager pointed out.
I seen that today. They have a couple of boys out. I'll go. I don't think this will be a cracker game anyway. I'll go 2-1 Man United.
I'm going to go for a 1-0 United one because that seems to be a favourite result since Amorim comes on. 4:30 Arsenal against Man City is definitely the highlight of the weekend. Bournemouth, Liverpool probably runs at a close second, but I think this will be the one that definitely catches the eye. I know there's a 2-2 draw in the reverse game, but this has typically been a low-scoring fixture in the last few seasons at the Emirates. There hasn't been too many goals in these games, so it'll be interesting to see what way both teams go about it, because Arsenal really have to win. The sitting back job against Man City that they used to do, they might be forced to play a different way in this game, and that might make it a bit more open. So fascinating tactically to see how this goes.
I can't see Arsenal doing what they usually do, as you said, and sit back because they can't afford to this season. Or this game, sorry, they can't afford it because if they lose, and just say we do beat Bournemouth tomorrow, when they lose, that's a 9-point gap with us having a game in hand. So, I don't know. I'm stuck. I'm going to go 2-1 Man City.
2-1 Man City. I'm going to go 2-1 the our way. I think Arsenal will just get it done. Monday Night Football, Chelsea, West Ham. West Ham do love a Monday Night Football game. And, of course, Chelsea played Monday Night Football a couple of weeks ago. So, no surprise, these two end up on a Monday night game. West Ham have a funny record. They seem to win on Monday nights. They seem to love it or get decent results on Monday night. I think they went to Newcastle and won. They drew away at Bournemouth. There was another game they won as well on a Monday night. I can't think now exactly who it was.
I think it was Fulham, was it?
No.
Can't mind now. But there has been 3 this season. I definitely know that.
I think
Oh,
they've 2-1 in the draw.
was it Wolves they drew with?
Yeah, no, they beat Wolves, they drew with Bournemouth, and they beat Newcastle. That was a 3. So if that form continues, they'll be happy. But I think Chelsea will be too strong for them.
So then I'm gonna go 2-0 Chelsea.
I'm going to go 3-1 Chelsea. Owen, that takes us up to the end of the show. Fantastic to have you on as always. Thanks to the viewers for their comments and plenty watching as well from behind the screens. So if you ever are watching, you feel like you want to ask a question or get involved, make sure to type in the box there and we can put it on the screen for you. Me and Owen will be back, plus hopefully a couple more on Tuesday night. They look ahead to the Liverpool and the Spurs game in the in the League Cup second round. We'll obviously touch on the Newcastle and Arsenal game as well. That's on Wednesday night, and reflect on all of the weekend's games, including those games at Bournemouth, Liverpool, and Arsenal, Man City, where maybe the title race could take a twist one way or the other. It could be almost in Liverpool's grasp, or maybe Arsenal claw some ground back. Fascinating. Moving into that time of the season now where big games come thick and fast, and of course, me and Owen are very much looking forward to the Cup semi-final, 90 minutes from Wembley on Thursday night. Spurs only have to get a draw, but I'll tell you what, that it would feel like a pretty big one if they were to get that draw on Thursday night. Owen, you feeling confident ahead of that game still?
Just the fact that it's an Anfield and Spurs don't have a great record there. But as you say, Spurs don't necessarily need to go out and win, so it'll be interesting to see how Ange goes about it.
A great length. They find Liverpool fan that isn't confident to turn that around. This did Spurs as well, and of course we will reflect on all the dealings on transfer deadline day as well. If it is a busy day on Monday, we maybe do something, but I don't expect it to be like the summer transfer window. So we probably will just leave it to Tuesday and reflect on everything together and build up to those League Cup semi-finals. So again, thanks for watching. And if you're new around here, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content. Until next time, we'll see you later.
Cheers.